This is 10 things that all New World Aeternum players need to know. Whether you are a returning player or a brand new player to New World Aeternum, all of these things are going to be slightly less obvious, but they are going to be really helpful throughout your entire playthrough. If you do find this video useful and informative, please drop me a like and subscribe down below, as both those things massively help out the channel. And without further ado, let's jump into it. So first things first, here we're going to be talking about trade skill leveling and that you can use rare drops. So things like your abnormal ore in order to be able to accelerate your leveling in that desired trade skill. Now of course this will work again when you get up to level 250 towards your aptitudes as well, so this is going to be something you can continue to use throughout your entire New World Aeternum playthrough. Now how these work is you can go up to the respective refining station, so for example with the mining here, the mining one is on the smelting, and if you have an abnormal ore, or you have a strange ore, or you have an unusual ore, those are the ones that you can get here, or of course this bizarre ore, which is the maximum tier one. Once you've got the required level, which is 0, 50, 100 and then 150, in order to be able to use these, you can actually go ahead and use them and click the craft down here. Now this will go straight into your mining level, so you can see there I've got plus 5,512 to my mining. This is particularly good early on, and it's going to pair nicely with one of the tips I've got later in the video. But this also works for some of the trickier to level trade skills, like for example, you can see here the music. I've got up to level 114, and I can assure you that I haven't stood there and played the instruments, although they are quite fun. I'm pretty naff at it, so there is a way you can get around this as well. And that is going to be for music, for cooking, and for furnishing. And what you can do with these is actually head up towards the top of your inventory into the rewards section, and if you have any spare music sheets that you already have claimed, so these ones you can see I can't claim these, I've already learnt them. So what I can do with these is actually turn them into music XP. It's the same with recipes for cooking, and for furnishing you've got these schematics there. Particularly with the schematics for the furnishing and the recipes for the cooking, you want to check that they're not too expensive, as sometimes they're going to be a few thousand each if you've got a rarer one, even if you've already claimed it. It's probably worth selling that on a trading post, but if it's a pretty cheap one, or you're someone that's got a fair amount of gold and you can go ahead and buy some of the cheaper ones, especially for the music, what you can do is head over to the respective station, so either the cooking station, the engineering station for furnishing, or the engineering station for the music. What you want to do is scroll yourself all the way down here. You can get these musicians' research notes. Now you need to be level 25 in music, so you will have to do a little bit of preliminary work in order to get that up, but once you have got it up, as you can see here, any of these extra ones that I've already learned, I can pop in and they'll give me 385 XP each, which doesn't sound like a lot, but as you can see there, it's basically half a level at level 115, and before level 100 it was basically 3/4 of a level, so you really don't need too many of these considering how many you get as drops in order to be able to get yourself up pretty quickly with those. Now the next thing we're looking at here is daily natural money makers. Most people will want to make money in some sort of form every single day on New World to pay for whatever it is that you want to do, whether it be new gear, stuff towards your trade skills, or any other stuff that you're doing like your houses. Now, one way you can do this, and the best way in my opinion, is the random mutated expeditions. These, for the first 2 that you get per day, as given by the daily bonus at the top of this screen, will give you a reward cache, and you can see here that you'll get 150 coins and 10,000 faction tokens. Now this is on top of the rewards that you'll get for completing the dungeon itself, and is actually pretty fun because the random queue only puts you into M1 and M2s, as you can see there, so these can be done fairly quickly if you've got around the 700 or 690 plus gear score. So definitely check those ones out. You can also do the regular expeditions up to 3 times daily, again for 125 coins and 2,500 faction tokens, along with the reward for finishing that expedition as well. However, this does end up taking quite a while. The mutated ones, probably you can get them both done within an hour, maybe even shorter if you get a good group that runs through these quickly. But these ones, if you add them in, you're looking at 2 to 3 hours to get all 5 of your dungeons done. But the other really important thing that doesn't take much time at all is the daily faction missions. Now, if you speak to your faction representative, you will see here daily bonuses available, 3 of 3. So you get 3 of these each day, and what this will do, it means the first 3 missions that you hand in, you'll get your rewards 10x'd from the regular. So as you can see there, I'm getting 165 coins for completing this one, as well as the 5,625 tokens, 455 territory standing, and of course the XP, which we don't care about once we are at max level. But you do get a decent amount of reputation there as well, if like me, you've been a little bit lazy and you're still working towards that top tier. Now, why this is important is because, as you can see on screen here, in Windswood, I've got 3 expedition quests. So what you want to try and do is re-roll these all the time. So if you get one that's not an expedition, you can click cancel mission, and every 5 to 10 minutes, as you can see in the top right there, these will get refreshed. And once you've got expedition quests, when you queue up for your random mutations, depending which ones they are, or the random dungeons, you can hopefully complete the faction missions and your random queue dungeon for the day at the same time. So for example, this week when we've got Genesis on mutation, I want to go over to Eden's Grove and try and get the expedition quest from the faction representative there, so that if I do a mutation and I get this one, I can do both at the same time. So that is kind of your min-max way to do it. You definitely want to do your 2 mutations daily and your 3 faction quests, because that will get you a very, very decent amount of gold every single day for absolutely free. Alright then, so the next thing here is Cutlass Keys daily chests. Now, I've mentioned this in a couple of videos if you've watched some of them on the channel, but I'm going to dive into this a little bit more right now. Basically, what you want to be doing is making sure you're doing 1 elite run for Cutlass Keys every single day, especially if you're not too much into the PvP section of this zone itself, because that will get you these brand new Mystic doubloons. Then what you want to do is you want to head down to the doubloon exchange miscellaneous section here, and you want to get these gold cursed epic crates. Now, each of these costs 35 mystic doubloons, and you can buy 3 daily. And what you can get from this is open to acquire 1 epic rare or legendary gear or epic crafting materials. The reason these are good is because you can, if you are lucky, get anything up to 725. Now, it could be any item, it could be the wrong weight class, it could be the wrong stat, it could be the wrong weapon, but you have the chance of getting something good. And on top of that, the materials are actually really, really useful that you get from it as well. So you want to grab those every single day. On top of this, you really want to look at the refined resources crate. This one gives you timber, iron ingot, coarse leather and linen. Everybody needs these or is buying these for a decent amount. These literally cost 5 each, so it's 10 for both. Very, very worthwhile doing. It's free money at that point if you've done the run. You can, of course, do the same thing here with all of these extra crates. So you can get the rare resource crates. You can get 2 of these for 25 each per day. You can get the epic ones for 35 each per day. And you can get an exotic one for 50 each per day as well. And these are all very worthwhile. In terms of the Gold Curse Rare Crate, I tend to stay away from this. I've not found it very, very good yet, but you can get 5 of these for 10 Mystic Doubloons each per day if you did want to try and do it, but I don't believe that one can get up to 725 gear score. However, someone correct me in the comments if I am wrong with that. The other thing that I do like to get off of this is the Gypsum Orb Exchange Daily. 10 Mystic Doubloons for 5 Gypsum Orbs, which is very, very good. So I always go ahead and grab that one every single day. And the other thing that you probably want to grab off here if you haven't done it yet, or is it on a weekly cooldown, but it's 5 Gold Touch Honing Stones. These are exactly the same as the regular Honing Stones, the tier 5 ones. They will be in a different stack in your inventory, but 10 Mystic Doubloons for 5 of these is very, very good and can really boost you early on through some of the dungeons or through wars or whatever it is that you're doing. And you can also get these for some of the other things here, like your Oak Flesh Balms, but most importantly, your proficiency boosters. You can get 5 of these for 10 Mystic Doubloons, and this is a huge, huge steal. Getting these things is going to put you massively above the crowd here in New World Aeternum, so definitely make sure you're getting these. And again, those ones are on a weekly lockout, so you can get them again. For me right now it's in 8 hours, but that happens to be because I'm filming this on a Monday evening before the Tuesday morning reset, so it will be a week's cooldown on these items. Now, something I've been seeing in the comments of my videos quite a lot is people saying how do they get around the map faster, how can you move from one place to another much more easily, and the answer to that is any home that you own on the map, you can click onto the settlement where it is when it's got this little house icon next to it, and you can click recall to house, and that can be from absolutely anywhere on the map. So of course, once you've got 3 houses up and going, that's 3 different locations, and if you have one on cooldown, it's very, very cheap. You can see here I have literally a tier 1 5,000 cost house here at Windswood, and the maximum it cost me to reset this is 20 as off. If you gather a few different things, you'll get that back in no time, so it really isn't a lot. You can teleport back there. Additionally, wherever you've got your inn set to, you can recall to the inn from anywhere on the map as well, so you can get yourself back to any location you want to be really, really fast. And on top of this, A lot of people might not know this with the New World Aeternum update if you'd played New World at any point previously, but you no longer have to go to the physical location of an expedition on the map or a dungeon. You can just go into this interface and queue up for any of these, and it will be cross-server queue. If you're doing an M3, of course, that is creating a lobby, but even then, you still don't actually have to have been to the physical entrance location on the map in order to be able to get to these activities, so that makes it much easier to get involved with these much more quickly. Now, the next thing is we are going to be looking at bags and tool perks. So head into your inventory, go over to the second tab here, and as you can see, I have gone through the extremes with you here. So we've got a tier 2 leather shoulder bag. This one is just plus 100 to weight and extra pockets. Very simple. You get this from the quest line. Very easy to get with. Then you got a Guardian Satchel. This one is from one of the side quests, and you can see here we've got a few more perks on this. And then we can also go up to the 600 gear score bags. Now with this one, what you'll see is it has some perks like extra pockets, so we've got a lot more weight capacity, especially compared to the tier 2, obviously. But you can see you get things like Azoth Attuned, Town Loyalty, Alchemist Burden. But the one thing that is really good with this is the lasting consumption buff, which is food, Hurning Stones and Ward Potions' base duration are increased by 16%. So it means if you go ahead and let's say pop on one of these foods down here, let's say a roasted rabbits with seasoned vegetables, lasts for 40 minutes here it says, that increases by 16% and ends up being over the 50-minute mark, which is much, much better. The most important thing I have found this for is for the raids, because these generally last a little bit longer, so this is really, really helpful. Also does affect things like your proficiency boosters, so this is really, really good because it means you're going to have a longer time on those. Further to this, when you get your tools up to 625 or above, or you're actually buying them at this point, you will see that you get things like yield, which we're going to come back to in just a moment here, because this is really, really good. But you can also get things like the soul alignment here, or any of the different alignments. So we've got earth alignment on this one, we've got another soul alignment there, and we've got a life alignment. Now this is going to be really good because, as you can see in the inventory, it allows you to get motes while you're gathering that material. So for the logging axe, when I'm gathering trees, I have a chance at getting some of those earth motes there, which is really, really nice. And this can net you either a whole lot more profit, or it can go towards your arcana, your potion crafting, or your gem cutting there as well. So all of these, it's very, very beneficial to go ahead and grab those. You're going to want to make the most of them while you are going out gathering. I'm here on a brand new fresh start server on EU. I'm on Draco's server, and these are selling for about 700 to 800 gold, so it's really not that expensive at all to get some tools with perks that are massively going to benefit your progression and your overall money making in return. So certainly get your hands on these when you can. So then, talking about maximizing your efficiency when you are going to be gathering, firstly, you of course have got the tools themselves. Like I said there, the higher levels you're going to get to in terms of the gear score, the higher gather speed base value you're going to have. You can also get something called yield as a perk. As you can see here, we have mining yield, which is plus 20% resources when mining. So that is really, really cool. Further with this, you can have one of your proficiency boosts, so you can get these straight off the trade post, or you can make them, or like I just showed you before, you can get the gold touch proficiency boosters. Again, on a weekly lockout for these, you can get 5 of those, and those will increase the resources gathered with a tool by 15% for a base value of 30 minutes, but like I mentioned with the bag there, that can be increased. Further to this, you can add things like a gathering set. So if I go ahead and equip here my whole harvesting set, this will not actually increase your yield, but it will increase your luck at getting rare items, which, like we mentioned in the first tip, you can actually then put back into the trade skill itself and get you some more XP. So either towards the max level there if you're on a new character, or towards your next aptitude if you have maxed out that gathering skill, both of which are very beneficial. Additionally to this, it's worth knowing that with the tools, you can also get luck. So you can see there I've got mining luck, which is plus 9.6% chance at finding rare items while mining. So all of that feeds itself in. If you want to go a step further with this, look at your attributes. Each attribute has a different gathering skill that it gives a buff to. So you can see here that intelligence will buff your harvesting speed. So you can see the top one is the combat buff and the bottom one is the gathering buff. So harvesting speed there, then chance for 1 Azoth when harvesting, then encumbrance, and then we get weight of harvested items, then 20% harvest speed. Yield increase at harvesting there at 250 points, which is really, really crucial. 25% reduction in Azoth travel, not too bothered about that one, but plus 10% chance of finding rare items when harvesting. So having your attributes set up to buff the gathering skill that you are most focused on at the moment, especially if you're going to be running the boosters and the full sets and things like that, is super, super important. Now, when you get your trade skill in music up to level 100 plus, you can also have an increased yield when gathering from the Fortune's Favour song. This one, if you have a look here, will give you a increase of 10% yield for 60 minutes when you play this one. So that is another 10% increase to the yield. And just to throw another thing into the mix here to really maximise this so you've got all the knowledge you can of course throw on your gathering luck trophies in your houses. And as you can see here, these give at the second tier, which is the lowest and cheapest one, 500 luck to a respective skill. And these can be increased up to 1,000 on the next tier up, and then 1,500 on the final tier. So you can get even more luck, which means you can get more of those rare drops, which is going to be good for crafting, but also for feeding back in, as per the first tip, into the gathering skill to get either the maxed out levels or your aptitude boxes. So you can start to see how all of this nicely fits together and really helps you to maximize your experience here in New World Aeternum. Now, a couple of things that you might not know about in your inventory. Firstly, you can move the sections around, so you can actually drag the sections to wherever you want them just by clicking on the title and dragging it to a new section. You can also go up here into your filters and select the amount of columns that you want. So you can by default have it on 2, but you can select this to 1, which makes the view go straight across like this, and it can be easier to see the items all in one go, just like that. Especially if, like me, you've got a very cluttered inventory and there's a lot to see, it can make it a little bit easier for you. So that is just personal preference on what you prefer in terms of the look of it. Further to this, what you can do is go into the search bar and of course just straight up search for the item. But you can also do something like a bracket here, and then you can type in, let's say you wanted to look for items with keen on. You can type in keen into these square brackets at the top, and it'll show you all of the items you have in your inventory with keen on. Now, this is really useful if you have been on a chest run or you've just done a couple of dungeons back to back and you've got a ton of items and you're wanting to sell stuff. You can just go ahead and say you're looking for luck gear. Just go ahead and type luck in there, lock the ones that have luck on, and go ahead and salvage the rest of these or sell them. And that way you're not going to lose anything that you're wanting, but you're also going to be able to get rid of things a lot quicker and sort through your inventory much faster. Alright, so the next thing is going to be your faction shop must-haves. Some of these are on daily or weekly cooldowns, but you're going to want to make the most of these as soon as possible. And the reason I say that is because these are actually available from the very first level of your faction. The first thing you can get is these logging, harvesting, mining, skinning and fishing mastery caches. Now, what these will give you, it tells you there, is a strange bait, or for this one is a strange bone. It's going to be the bottom tier of those resources we talked about in the first tip that actually boost your XP towards the said gathering skill. You can get some of these from the first tier, some of these from the second tier, and you can see the cost will go up in both faction tokens and gold per tier. And then you can get some from the third tier here as well. So you want to be grabbing those probably daily for the first 2, and whenever you can afford it for the third tier as well, as these ones go up to 100 gold and 3,800 tokens. But they are going to be very worth it, and I'll show you that in just a moment's time. But you can also go ahead and go down here when you get to the 5th tier, and you're going to be able to grab yourself some gypsum orbs, which are going to be fantastic. Just cost you tokens, no gold, so certainly pick those ones up. And then when we get down to the 6th tier here and the final tier, you can get some more gypsum orbs, which is great, again, at no cost in terms of gold, just some tokens. And you can also get these specialized materials for the said trade skill. So whether this is, for example, the craft mods, epic tier 5 ores, or the minor clothing patterns. Of course, the final one there, the clothing patterns feature of the trade skills, is probably going to be the most valuable, either to you or to sell, but you can certainly get those. And then, of course, you've got your chromatic seals and your Azoth inductors. These ones cost a heck of a lot more in terms of the faction tokens and especially the gold on the Azoth inductor here, but they are going to be worth getting because you're going to need these for your endgame crafting if that is something you are looking at doing. So make sure you're making the most of your faction daily must-haves in the shop so you're getting on top of this as soon as possible. Just to show you these crates, you can see here I've bought one of each of the variants. So if we open the login ones, you can see the first tier login one gives me a strange resin here. The second blue tier login one here will give me a abnormal resin, and the third tier, the purple one here, will give me an unusual resin. Like I showed you in the first tip, you go over to the respective station then, and you can then redeem these. I already had some, so just pretend it's one, but you'll get some login XP for that, about 1,500 per the tier 1s. The tier 2s there is going to give me a very decent 8,200, and the tier 3 then is going to give us 35,000 XP towards login, and as you can see, that's put me all the way up to level 150. So this is an absolute no-brainer to make sure you're making the most of every single day. It's going to give you a huge boost, get you up to max in no time, along with the gathering that you are doing, and is going to allow you to make the most of these skills when other players can't gather the materials, or if you wanted to make money or your crafting skills increase or whatever it is that you're doing, it's going to be super helpful. So definitely get on that ASAP. Now finally here, I'm going to talk about the Cutlass PvP Island, and before I lose some of you here by saying you don't want to do this, firstly, it is very useful because you're going to get a lot of good things, and especially when we're looking at the gathering. So not necessarily for PvP, although you can't sometimes opt out of that. This is going to be why. So yes, you might lose half of anything cursed that you get if you die, but there is a huge caveat to that, which I think all players should know about here in New World Aeternum. Now, at the time of making this video, whether they change it in the future, I'm not sure, but at the time of recording, you will keep all of your XP earned through gathering in the PvP zone. So whatever you gather, you will keep the XP for it regardless of if you die. Obviously, that just goes towards your total. Now, although it does take longer to gather most things in here, you will keep any and all of your tier 1s. So things like your hemp or your iron, you will keep all of those. They never come out cursed. You just keep them at base value. So that's really good. Additionally to this, you'll keep things like gems from mining. You'll keep all of your rare drops from each of the skills. So things like cinnabar and also your strange ores and things like that we were looking at before in the previous tips that boost your XP. You will keep all of those by default, which is really huge because none of that comes out as cursed. Now, of course, if you do get a kill on somebody else as well and they've been gathering, you will be able to get half of the resources that they've farmed. And if you don't die and make it out successfully, which I have done plenty of times, especially if you're playing at kind of not peak hours, then you'll be able to get all of those resources out so you can then use them or sell them. So whilst this method might not be for everybody, it certainly is good, especially for the rare drops. So if you're really not bothered about PvP, I would honestly recommend going in a gathering set and just literally trying to get some gathering going, so that for those rare drops, those gems, those XP boosting ones that you can redeem at the stations, all of that will be kept regardless, and that can be really good as there isn't as many people farming in there at the moment. So it's a nice little bonus tip for anybody that has stuck it out to the end of the video. So hopefully this video has helped you out with some things that you didn't know, or it's reminded you of some things that you might have forgotten if you are a returning player here to New World Aeternum. If you think there's anything else that I've missed out that you think every player in New World Aeternum needs to know, drop it in the comments down below and let me know which one of these has helped you the most. Don't forget to drop me a like and a subscribe, as both of those things massively help out me and the channel, so I'd really appreciate it. And other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you again very shortly in a brand new upload. So take care and peace.